Hi, I'm Lori McNee with Ion Sun Valley, and this is Artbeat. And today I am in the studio workshop with Jack Sept, master leather worker and saddle craftsman. And thanks for joining us today. I love being here. It smells so good in a leather shop.
Well, thanks for coming down. It's a long drive down here, so
It's a beautiful drive down here. The Bellevue Triangle, that's what this is. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love it down here. It's gorgeous, gorgeous day, and this beautiful saddle in front of us. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, this starts my 58th year of working with leather. I started when I was 12 years old in a 4-H class, and I was born and raised on a ranch, so cowboy stuff was big.
That's wonderful.
And yeah, my uncles, my dad, everybody, they always talked about custom saddles, custom boots, custom hats, all that. So this kind of stuff was really ingrained in me, and I just took a love to it. I've done a lot of other kinds of artwork over the years. I've studied art at the University of Montana. Ted Waddell was one of my...
Really?
Yeah, he taught design
That's
class.
Great.
But I just kept coming back to leather, and I'd say for the last 40 years, that's pretty much been my focus.
Well, there's something about leather, definitely. You just want to touch it, and this is such a beautiful saddle specimen here, and I wish you could see up close. Tell us a little bit about the process of leather working on a saddle, because this is very intricate work. Looks like it's taken hours and hours. So would you mind walking us through just
Sure.
a bit about
Yeah.
this?
So, well, I'll say first,
Sure.
leather is an ancient art. I mean, people have been doing this since the beginning of mankind. Somebody figured out how to tan leather, make robes and moccasins and all that, and very quickly thereafter, somebody started decorating it.
Absolutely.
And this tooling, I call it tooling. Some
Yes.
people call it carving
Okay.
or stamping. But I mean, from the tombs, the graves of horsemen, Genghis Khan, all those folks, they all tool leather.
Did they?
And the thing about tooling leather, and leather is such a wonderful medium because you can wet it and mold it and do all kinds of things. And once you do this impression, it'll stay there forever.
Well, you were talking about that earlier. Can you show us the saddle tree back
Sure,
here? Because
yeah.
it starts with this saddle tree I learned.
Yeah, the base of a saddle is the saddle tree. And of course, nowadays they have all kinds of space age plastic injected and stuff, but the real standard is a rawhide covered tree. It's made out of wood and covered with rawhide. This rawhide is laced on here, and this rawhide is put on wet, and when it's dry, it shrinks, and it gives this tree all of its strength. If this tree wasn't covered in rawhide, you rope a cow with it or something, you could tear it apart. But it's this rawhide. And so when a customer comes, the first thing we do is kind of figure out, saddles are like, let's just say, athletic shoes. You don't play basketball in spikes or what, so it's what kind of riding are you doing? What do you do? What do you want? And so we figure out, what kind of front end you want, what kind of a tree, what kind of a horn, how high you want your cantle, all that kind of stuff. And the old saying in the saddle making business is the top side is for the rider, the bottom side is for the horse.
Oh, good.
And so I don't make saddles for a particular horse, but I make them for a type of horse because horses change. The same horse, I mean, from the beginning of the season to the end can lose a little weight and all that. So, but anyway, that's
interesting. I haven't ever heard that. I used to ride horses and owned them myself, and this is really interesting to me. And I even tried my hand at tooling leather years and years ago, and so it's really fun to learn the process, the backstory. So thank you.
Yeah. So you take, start with that tree. And then I just start adding leather, and to me, the secret of a really good seat is it's down like this, but it's also narrow. People's legs come together. You don't want a big, wide seat, so I try to keep my seats pretty narrow. And then the tooling and that sort of thing is customer choice. I mean, a plain saddle will ride just as well as another one, but at my stage in my career, I would prefer to make tooled ones, you know. I don't make many plain saddles anymore.
Right, and you also do other leather work as well, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, but belts and the bridles and things, do people order them to match sometimes?
Well, most of the time when somebody orders a saddle, I just automatically put a breast collar and a headstall on them. But yeah, I make a lot of cowboy gear, Western, like spur straps, a lot of chaps, hundreds and hundreds of belts.
Chaps.
I do belts for Silver Creek Outfitters up in Ketchum. I do their show boots and buckles every year.
Oh, right.
And so it's real fun that's a good place to meet a lot of people. And
okay, tell us a little bit about the parts of the saddle. This is the horn, right?
Yeah, this is the horn.
Okay.
This is the horn. These are the swells. Some people call them the pommel.
Pommel.
But to me, it's always been swells. Of course, your seat jockeys, and this here is the cantle, and this right here is the Cheyenne roll that's sewed on there.
All hand stitched.
And this is the hardest part of all of this because there's like 6 pieces of leather here, and I sew it by hand.
That's incredible.
And I usually allow about 4 hours to get that done.
Well, that's amazing.
I start in the center, I go this way, then I go this way. And then the horn right here is also hand sewed, like that and everything. But what I try to do on these saddles, because people, all of them are custom made. This is mine, but usually I don't make a saddle unless it's ordered. So I draw up the designs in advance and kind of show people. Some people just turn me loose, say, go for it. Other people kind of like to see. My most interesting customers are women because they're a little bit more involved in it, and so I draw up my patterns. Very seldom do I ever do the same design or the same. Nobody wants to show up at a branding and see the same saddle.
Right.
So it's kind of like showing up at a dance with the same dress on. Something like that. So anyway, I'll start here. And I draw all my patterns first on paper, because there's quite a bit of elements of design here, and if I got a leaf going down one way, I put it, so it kind of has.
I love the symmetry.
And then a flow. I like to really have my stuff kind of flow. This is called the Sheridan style tooling. That's where I learned, was Sheridan, Wyoming. My first 4-H teacher was Don King, who is credited pretty much with this style of tooling.
That's great.
So I draw it first, and then I transfer it onto the leather. And of course, we're doing all this tooling over on the bench, on a stone. So you get you get your leather nice and wet, and then you get a really good impression when you hit on the stone.
I'd love you to take us over there right after this break. We're going to take a break for a moment, and then would you mind showing us all about that at your workbench?
You bet, we'll do it.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Better food, better price, better service. Atkinson's Market, supporting local farmers since 1956.
I moved out to Idaho 4 years ago, so I met a lot of people, and I really, really like it here. If you don't have something like that that brings you into other people's lives, it takes a long time to get to know people.
Welcome back. I'm with Jack Sept in his wonderful studio, and what are we doing here?
Well, I was just going to show you a little bit about how these designs are imprinted or tooled into leather. For example, this is one I just tooled that's all finished and everything, but it hasn't got the oil on it or anything like that yet. A lot of the things I do, like this is a custom chap top, so the initials are in it, so I kind of incorporate my design into the initials.
That's great.
But we start with just wet leather. And
is this wet right now?
This is wet right now.
Oh, I feel that.
It's been in a sack overnight, a plastic bag. It's nice and soft. And I talked about drawing your design, so you draw your design on here.
And do you transfer your designs with like carbon transfer paper or something like that?
Well, a lot when I'm doing little things like spur straps and stuff like that, I just draw it on here.
Oh, okay.
I've been doing this for 58 years. I can do
freehand.
But if I'm doing something a little more technical, I draw it, and then I put it on Mylar, and then I trace it on you know, and it leaves the impression on
Okay.
the leather. And then I start with a swivel knife, and this swivel knife is called this because it turns. And that's how I can cut out all these flowers and everything like that. So the first thing that I would do if I'm going to tool something is I would, let's just say we're going to do a
Sharp.
little thing. Yes, you got to have sharp tools, you know.
Wow.
So I cut the design out, and then I use all these different tools to go through here and start pushing down. Everybody looks at these and thinks that somehow I've taken, you know, like I'm taking leather out. It's not. You're pushing stuff down.
Okay.
So it's so the
punching,
yeah.
right?
So when I here we go. When I do, like if I'm doing some beveling or something like that, I'm going around it. I need a. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I need a. But you. If you hear that, if you walk in a shop somewhere and you hear that tapping, you know there's a leather worker doing it.
Oh,
but
that's-
you go
yeah, I
around
see.
it and stuff starts standing up.
Okay.
And then for my background stuff, whoops, I get a little tool here. The background then, you know, is basically, it's like a stipple thing, but I do that and it pushes, and so it's this background is all pushed down.
Okay.
And then these different tools, I have a lot of them. People look at all these and say, do you need this many tools? The answer is no. But I've been collecting them since I was 12.
They're
and I love
expensive
them.
because I have a little set myself, and those cost a lot.
Well, and many of these tools, I'm probably the third guy to have them.
Oh,
you know, they're
I-
100,
oh.
150 years
Oh
old,
my
some of them.
goodness, that's
And
amazing.
then, for example, a flower center is like that
Oh, that's
and everything.
beautiful.
So,
Look at that.
and so that would be like the center of a flower here, something like
Right.
that.
So you're working the negative space a lot.
Pushing, yes.
Yes.
And then when you get done, then I go in here with a little paintbrush, and
Mm-hmm.
and this is actually mahogany colored dye. It isn't black, and I paint the background so it really makes the foreground stand up. And like this here is a custom brand on here
That's
and everything.
beautiful.
So
Okay, can I
that's-
try something?
You certainly may.
Okay, well, I'll just.
Okay.
Do you trust me over?
Yes, I.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So what do I do?
Okay, well, let's just, here, we'll
Okay.
get some, a nice flower.
Okay.
And like say you.
All right.
And you gotta whack it pretty good.
Okay. Ah.
Well,
that was a mess.
That's one design.
Okay, you gotta hold it real
You gotta
still.
hold it,
Okay.
yeah. There you go. See, good,
yes.
that's a very nice imprint.
That was
yeah.
very nice. Wow.
And
okay.
so, you know, and the thing about this is, there's only one way to do it. That I've been doing this for 58 years, and I can't figure out a faster way to do it.
Okay.
So if you got a lot of time to spend, setting up here tapping leather,
Yes.
and listening to NPR is a very good way to spend time. So.
Good. Oh, how fun. Okay, so this is marble? Like, have you ever cracked through it before?
No, it's
No?
about this thick.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
people refer to this as the stone. They'll say,
The
I'm going
stone.
to go over on the stone.
Okay.
And the reason that you have a stone like that is so that you get, when you hit, you get, a lot of times you only want one hit. You
Makes it look easy.
If you hit 2 or 3 times, you'll start getting, sometimes you'll
Well,
get a shadow or something like that.
That's what I did here.
So if I'm doing it this is called a thumbprint, you know, it's like one hit. And I'll show you something else too that I really enjoy is these, this is called tooling. This is called stamping. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so that leaves a geometric stamp.
Okay.
And so you line them up, and the part you don't hit starts to form the design.
Oh, I see,
See how that works?
I see that. I
Yeah.
don't know if you can see that, but
Yeah. So so there's what I call tooling, then there's stamping, and then a lot of times I do a combination.
well, it's
and,
beautiful.
yeah, it'll-
And then what kind of leather? Like, where do you get your leather?
Well, this for any kind of tooling and stuff, you have to use vegetable tan leather. This leather, particular leather, is Herman oak. It comes from St. Louis, a tannery there. I actually buy it out of Montana leather, Billings,
Okay.
Montana. But there's also Shap leather and stuff like that. It's a lot softer,
Right.
and it won't hold an impression.
Okay.
So you have, and like I say, you've got to have this wet. I don't mean drowned. It's got to be cased. You wet it, and then let it be mellow,
Okay.
and then you get a perfect impression.
Okay. Well, how interesting. So now, where can folks find you? Do you have a website?
No.
No website.
No,
Okay.
I am in the phone book under leather,
He's old school.
but yeah, I don't have
leather.
I don't have a website or anything like that. I'm mostly word of mouth. I send stuff all over the world, but I don't advertise. So, and I'm about pretty near a year behind.
Well, and
so.
do you have an apprentice? Like this is almost a lost art in ways, isn't it?
A lot of people do it,
Good. I'm
but
glad to
it's
hear
so
that.
hard to make a living at it
Okay.
because it's so it's time, and you gotta charge for your time, and a lot of people just don't appreciate the work that goes in. So there's people who are doing leather work, but they're also working.
Right. Well,
and,
good. Well,
so-
Jack, thank you so much for joining me here today,
right.
or for
Appreciate
letting
it.
me join you here today,
No,
I should say.
It's a treat.
And it's a treat to
Yeah.
meet you. And so Jack Sept down in Bellevue, Idaho. Thank you for joining us with Art Beat
You bet.
with Ion Sun Valley, and we'll see you next time.